What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be examining the differences between the different recoil types that are stated in the detailed stats screen of the Modern Warfare 3 menus. This is something that may not be immediately obvious to you, and I've had many people ask me, like, which one of these stats should I be focusing on the most? Should I focus more on recoil gun kick or horizontal and vertical recoil? So let's just dive right into the testing and results that I found here. In the first test, I'm using the Holger 5.56, and this is our base recoil plot. This is with no attachments equipped. Then I created a setup that only impacts our horizontal and vertical recoil, and it helps both of those values without impacting our recoil gun kick at all. And then finally, we have a setup that improves our recoil gun kick without touching our horizontal or vertical recoil values at all. And when we have a look at the recoil plots here, it seems pretty obvious that focusing on horizontal and vertical recoil are going to give us the best impact to our recoil when it comes to the total magnitude of recoil. In fact, you'll notice if we don't touch those values and we only focus on recoil gun kick, the overall magnitude, the total amount that our gun will kick up throughout an entire magazine, is pretty much exactly equal to the base recoil plot. In saying that though, if you look a little bit closer at this, you can see a clear difference when we are trying to improve our recoil gun kick compared to the base recoil. And one of the better ways to visualize this is to connect the dots to see what the recoil path looks like. And as you can see here, when you're controlling for recoil gun kick, you're smoothing that path out a lot. You're not seeing as much of a zigzag there. So this means your gun's not going to be bouncing side to side away from that recoil path as much the more you improve this recoil gun kick. So it appears recoil gun kick is essentially what Modern Warfare 2 described as recoil stabilization. It doesn't necessarily affect the magnitude of your recoil, but it affects how much you're going to be deviating from that recoil path. And a good way to visualize this in action is to put a crosshair that's centered perfectly on the screen and then just pay attention to how much this dot is deviating from that center point on the left where we aren't focusing on gun kick recoil and on the right where we are focusing on gun kick. And while the difference is subtle here, because we're only looking at a 10% change to our gun kick, you should be noticing that on the right-hand side, we're not deviating quite as much from that center point while firing a magazine. So that's what we're talking about when it comes to gun kick here. If you have a gun that's bouncing side to side a bunch as it's kicking up, you definitely want to be focusing more on that gun kick. Whereas with horizontal and vertical recoil, this is what Modern Warfare 2 would just describe as recoil control. And this is your view kick. This is how much your camera is going to be like rotating upwards as you're firing. And it could also be just described as your total magnitude of recoil. And then obviously horizontal means how much it's going to deviate horizontally, and vertical is how much it's deviating vertically. Now, just for another example to show you guys that this wasn't just a fluke with one gun, I also tested a gun that has quite a bit of recoil. This is the WSP Swarm. And again, I did the same thing where on one test, I controlled for just horizontal and vertical recoil control. And then for the next test, I only reduced the gun kick. And we ended up with the exact same sort of results here. If you want to affect the magnitude of your recoil, definitely go for horizontal and vertical recoil control. Whereas if you want to smooth that out a little bit, go more in the direction of recoil gun kick. At the end of the day, it is worth noting that most attachments are going to be affecting both recoil control as well as recoil gun kick. It was actually kind of difficult to find these attachments that would only impact one and not the other. So in many cases, you're going to want to combine gun kick control versus your regular recoil control. And it really just depends on the gun that you're using and the type of recoil pattern that it tends to have. Another big thing to point out is so far with my recoil tests, I've tested most of the full auto guns in the game. Most of the guns have a tendency to have a pretty standard recoil path. They did cut down on that gun kick quite considerably compared to the Modern Warfare 2 guns. And as a result, I would say on average, you want to lean more in the direction of recoil control. There are some exceptions out there though, and if you are noticing your gun is starting to bounce around a lot, you may want to refocus a bit on that gun kick. For the most part, it's usually the safest bet to just go for that horizontal and vertical recoil control. And not only that, I have noticed as well, there doesn't tend to be a whole lot of horizontal recoil with many of these guns. And therefore, again, as a general rule of thumb, I like putting a little bit more emphasis on my vertical recoil control over anything else. Obviously, exceptions to that do exist, so you really have to judge it on a gun-to-gun basis, but that's how I generally view recoil based on all of the testing I've done so far. And with that, that's pretty much all I've got for you guys in today's quick video. Hopefully this cleared up the differences between those recoil types. And this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First up, do you like the fact that they have these two different types of recoil and the ability to control either one of them? And second, how do you feel about the fact that they've noticeably cut down on the recoil gun kick for Modern Warfare 3 guns compared to Modern Warfare 2? Just let me know all of those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.